And so it is. Welcome to the Mod 1 overview. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the next 2 weeks in particular are going to go and what you should know by the end of those 2 weeks. So if we head over to the standards site to get our bearings. All right, so demonstrate basic programming proficiency in Ruby, iterate over collections using built-in methods, build classes and objects using Ruby, model domains using ERDs, query databases using SQL, build Ruby applications that persist data, model relationships using Ruby, and model relationships using Active Record. This is what you should be able to do by the end of the module. Not all of this is on the code challenge. In fact, I'll tell you right now, that stuff is on the code challenge, and this is on the code challenge. I'll also give you a sense of pacing. I'll say this again at the end of the lesson. But by the end of this week, if we're pretty comfortable with like this, maybe starting to scratch into this a little bit by the end of this week, it's pretty good pace. If we spend most of next week worried about like this kind of stuff, that's about right. These relationships in particular are super tricky. But as we're getting up to speed on programming and stuff, I'd feel all right if we were through this by about Friday or so. Now, this is personalized education, which means that we don't pretend that all of you are in the exact same place at the exact same time, like most class-based instruction kind of goes. Some of you are going to be absolutely like knocking on this by the end of the week, probably a handful of you. Some of you are going to be on the struggle bus with these two things at the end of the week. We don't pretend like that's not happening. And in my 19 years of teaching, it's been my experience that if we can get the right intervention for the right person at the right time, there really doesn't end up being too much of a like fast students and slow students thing. That's a fast students and slow students is usually a byproduct of trying to pretend like everybody was in the same place when they really weren't. So what I'm going to do in this demonstration is I'm going to essentially show you more or less what the code challenge is. And we're hopefully going to use this as some mile markers for what the finish line looks like. Now, I need to be real clear about this. No one will be able to do anything that they can't do right now at the end of this. It's not really a lesson. You're not going to acquire a new skill. You're getting some perspective on where we're going. And so we'll have, for the next 2 weeks, we will be tearing the thing that I'm about to do apart in tiny little pieces and getting lots and lots of practice with it. So, questions before I begin?
So with this, are we going to be sending, are these, because I haven't clicked on any of them yet, are these like challenges or code challenges that we're going to send to our local environment and then send back to like our GitHub?
So with these assessments, this one is actually a Learn Lab. Almost none of the other ones are. Okay. Like this one isn't a Learn Lab. So what you'll do is you'll open this up. You will probably fork it like that. And then you will clone it down and work on your computer. And like I mentioned yesterday, you don't have to turn these in. They can be really good conversation pieces with instructors. It's like, I'm really struggling with this idea. Here's about how far I got through this assessment. They're really good for that, but they're not due or anything like that.
I think I'm getting slightly hung up on the wrong part with that. So I was working on a code, or I did a Code Wars challenge, and I was trying to send it to my GitHub, but when actually, no, not that one. I was working on a Learn Lab, and I was
Okay.
trying to code it over to my local environment. I forked it over, and I copied or cloned the code into my local environment, but it wasn't tracked, and I had troubles tracking it. Is it important that I track it, or do I just work on it?
Not important. And I think in Jesse's GitHub lesson, I think a lot of those questions will get answered for you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Other questions?
Jesse offered, because I popped into the tail end of the Code Wars thing today at like 8:50, not knowing what it was, and she offered to help get me set up. I think like tomorrow morning if we pop in there. So maybe we could both like get in with her together if you're having GitHub issues.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
What time is that?
8, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's 8:30 to 9, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like 8 to 8:30 is like career stuff. Yeah, professional development.
There you go. Every morning. What else? Other questions before we get started? All right. Here is what you should be able to do by the end of next week. So we're going to, this is our schedule for today. We're going to make an application that keeps track of dogs and owners. So we'll say that we've got dogs and owners, and we need a way to code the relationship between these. So you could say that one owner has many dogs. So for example, I'm Kyle, and I'm an owner, and I have Bixby and Mesa. And if I look at Bixby and Mesa, we go, hey, Bixby, who's your owner? Why, it's Kyle. Hey, Mesa, who's your owner? Why, it's Kyle. Hey, Kyle, what dogs do you have? Why, I have Bixby and Mesa. Cool. So that's what we call a one-to-many relationship. It's fairly simple. But what if we wanted to do it both directions? So we have another owner here. And we say Bixby is owned by Kyle and Elise. Mesa is just owned by Elise. So any dog can have multiple owners, and any owner can have multiple dogs. This is the crux of what we're spending Mod 1 doing, is being able to understand this relationship, because it shows up over and over and over again in code. And it's a fairly tricky relationship, as we'll see, to program to. Cool. So that thing that I just did, by the way, is modeling domains using ERDs. This is called an ERD, an entity relationship diagram. So let's talk about how I might code such a thing. Cool. So, all right, so I've got this empty terminal here. I've got this empty folder, nothing up this sleeve, nothing up this sleeve. So I'm gonna make an environment.rb file with nothing in it. I'm gonna go over to that environment.rb file, and I just wanna make sure that this works. So I could say something like puts hi. And now if I Ruby environment RB, it says hi. We're programming now. I could even make it interactive if I require pry and run binding.pry. Hey, I'm in there now. So I can say, I can just start typing some code. Awesome. We're in business. So I want to make a dog.rb file, and I want to make an owner.rb file. So now I have 3 files in this folder. I'm going to open up dog, and I'm going to open up owner. All right, so a quick bit of touring here. So this is Vim. It works just like VS Code or any other editor. Up at the top here, these are just the files that I have open. The one that's highlighted is the one that I'm on. The stuff at the bottom, I wouldn't worry about. I don't have like a file tree or anything. I do what's called fuzzy finding. So I just start typing and it narrows down, but that's me searching for a file, basically. One other thing that you'll see me do is sometimes you'll see this. Okay, so this thing at the bottom, these are just different terminals. Just like how you can have multiple terminals in VS Code, you can purely on the command line also. That's how that works. Okay, so if I want to work with dog and owner, I should probably require them in. Like so. Dogs and owners are like nouns, they're things. We want to be able to make them. And so the way that we do that in programming is classes. So I say I have a dog class and an owner class. Cool. So those are getting included there. If I run this file, I can do something like Bixby is a new dog. Hey, and I get a dog back. Say Mesa is a new dog. Cool. Say Kyle is a new owner. All right, we're getting somewhere. Now the trick is that I want to be able to say, hey Kyle, who are your dogs? And get a list of my dogs. I want to say Mesa, who's your owner? And get something back. That's the problem I'm trying to solve here. So first thing I need to do is need to make it so that I can make a dog that like stores information. Like I might want to store the dog's name. And so I'll pass a dog in, a name in and save it for that dog. Might do the same thing for the owner. And they don't have to have the exact same things. So like I might also have like a breed there. Cool. So now I should be able to make dogs and owners that are storing data. That's an important step. And I can type that stuff out by hand every time, but why? When I can put them in this environment file. We'll say owner.new takes in a name. I'll say Bixby is dog.new, takes in a name and an age. By the way, Bixby makes an appearance in many of these like things we do. Bixby is long gone, so I think it's even older than that. Ditto with Mesa. All right, so I should be able to, when I run this environment file, I should be able to see Bixby and Mesa and Kyle, and I'll throw Elise in there too. So if I run this file, hey, who's Kyle? Oh, that's who. Who's Bixby? Oops, that was breed, not age. Oops, fix that. All right, so I can make new make new nouns in my program. I can store stuff about them. All right, We're doing all right so far. So now, if I want to be able to keep track of dogs, well, maybe I do something like make an add dog method that takes in a dog, and maybe I keep track of my dogs in an array. So I do something like dogs, and we shovel that in. All right. Now, if I want to be able to read those dogs, I need to make a method for it. So I make a method called dogs, and all it does is return my dogs. Probably also want one for name, so I can read my name. All right. Let's see if it works. So if I go over here, I do something like Kyle.addDog Bixby. Okay. What if I want to say that I own Mesa also? Say add dog Mesa. All right. Now we can say, hey, Kyle, who are your dogs? Hey, now I'm getting somewhere, right? I can see who my dogs are. Can anybody see what the problem with this is, though?
It's returning too much information.
No, it's returning like all of it. That's fine.
So
It has to do
you've got to manually add the dogs every time.
That's a little bit it. It's more the other direction. What if I want to figure out who Bixby's owner is, who Mesa's owner is?
So we haven't coded anything for dogs. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say we haven't coded anything for the other way around with the dogs yet. So
Yeah.
You own the dogs, but the dogs don't have you as an owner.
Yeah, that's a problem. All right, so I go over to dog and I say, all right, if I want to know who my owner is, well, shoot, how am I going to do that? How am I going to get this data from over here? Well, what I could do is in the process of adding this dog, I could say something like dog.owner equals me. And then over here, I can say, hey, if you give me an owner, I'll save it. And if you ask me who my owner is, I'll tell you. All right. See if it works. So I say, hey, Kyle, I want you to add Bixby as a dog. Hey, Bixby, who's your owner? Oh, just Kyle, that's who. Cool. If you can do that, all the things that I just did confidently, like by the end of the week, you are like kicking ass. All right. Now the tricky thing isn't Kyle owns a dog and the dog is owned by Kyle. The tricky thing is if we're trying to do a dog can have more than one owner, an owner can have more than one dog. Oof, that gets rough. And so what we do to accommodate that is we put this thing in the middle called a dog owner. This is going to keep track. Its only job is keeping track of which owners have which dogs and which dogs have which owners. The only purpose it serves. So we're going to make a new file for it. So these are the files that I have in this folder right now. I'm going to require it in. What's up, Duncan? Yes, you can dump out your pool, and also please move it to the yard. Thank you. This kid has been dying for a pool all summer, and so he said they were like $7, like his kiddie pools at Walmart. He saved up his allowance. He's like, I have a pool now. All right, so I have a dog owner, and I'll do the same thing. Come on. I'll make a class called dog owner. And so really, when I add a dog, what I want to do is I want to make a new dog owner, not just add myself to that dog. So we'll say I make a dog owner new, and I pass in the dog I was given and myself. I say when I make a new dog owner, it takes in a dog and an owner, and it keeps track of them. Cool so far. So now, instead of keeping track of who owns who directly on these little nouns, we have this other thing that's keeping track of all of our ownership.
I was going to say, can we just use the adder accessor for?
We absolutely can. Somebody's been reading ahead. I love it. So it turns out that like writing these things where I go, all right, I want a name. I have to make a method to get the name. That's a really common pattern. So we actually have a shortcut for it. That is exactly the same as that. And turns out we can just have all the things that we want to get to that way.
And an owner as well, right?
Yeah. So I can say adder, reader, owner. And now I don't need this. Thanks, Ruby. All right. So this makes a new dog owner instance, bully. Now the problem is I still want to be able to get my dogs. And so since I'm not storing it on there, it really isn't an adder reader. Getting the dogs is going to be a little bit more complicated now. What I need to do is I need to go through all of the dog owners and find all of the dogs that are owned by me. So I need a way to do that. We'll call it all. And we're going to keep track of every dog owner that we make. Every time we make one, we're keeping track of it in this array up here. And then if anybody wants it, we give it back to them. All right. Now I can call dogowner.all and get a list of every dog owner I've ever made. All right. It's a start. So I can say dogowner.all. That gives me that array of every dog owner. But I only want the ones where I'm the owner. All right. So I can use select. That's one of our enumerables. And I only want ones where dog owner dot owner is me. So we'll call that like my dog owner instances. All right, that's cool. Now what I really want though is the dogs specifically. So if I say my dogs, I want something like my dog owner instances And then I want to map through those. That's another enumerable. My dog owner instance. And I only want my dog owner instance dot dog. And then I want to return my dogs. Ooh, that's some complicated looking code. That's where we're starting first. That's what we're doing today, is working with these like selects and maps and that kind of stuff. So, all right, can I get my list of dogs? Moment of truth. Okay. Can I say Kyle.addDog Bixby? Good. Can I Kyle.addDog Mesa? All right. Can I Kyle.dogs? Womp womp. Ah, shoot, I knew I was going to forget one. Undefined method owner for dog owner. That's because I made these two things here, but I didn't make the reader for them. All right. Moment of truth. Let's try it again. So I add Bixby. I add Mesa. Yo, Kyle, who are your dogs? Oh, just Bixby and Mesa. Now, having like taught programming now for 5 years, the thing that people screw up the most when they're doing this is they're expecting back the strings Bixby and Mesa. That's their names. That's what they're called. That's not the dog itself. The dog itself is everything having to do with the dog, including its breed, its age, its color, its whatever. But that was iterating over collections using built-in methods that select and map and all that kind of stuff that we're going to be doing today. That's really what's happening there. And in saving variables and returning stuff, that's really our basic programming proficiency right there. We've also built some classes and objects. Hey, wow, we're covering a lot of ground. We modeled some ERDs, and we modeled the relationships in one direction. But the whole reason we were doing this was so that I can ask Kyle who his dogs are, and I can ask Mesa who her owners are. So let's do the other side of this.
Did you do Kyle.dogs.name if you wanted just the name?
Ooh, super good. I'm going to make a note for that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I have never used the alt symbol before. What is that supposed to do?
Oh, this?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it more later this week, but the general idea is that if this is a blueprint for making a dog, this is how I store a variable on a specific dog. When I'm making a new dog, I want to be able to keep this variable attached to whatever dog that I just made, and I want to be able to access that from anything else. So for example, if I wanted to be able to see a particular dog's name, like puts.
Is it like, so you're creating a class which is called owner or dog, and then you have to give it some dimension, like give it its name, give it its breed. So that's that's why you use the alt, right?
Yeah. So the at, like here, if I'm Kyle, I'm an owner, and I want to puts that. Well, I defined it up here. So if I don't use the at symbol, it can't see that name variable anymore. If I put the at on it, now I can see that anywhere in the class.
Okay.
I do it that way.
So would that be called like a class variable?
Ooh, super good question. That's called an instance variable.
Instance variable. Okay, so it's totally.
This is a class variable. Two adds.
What are the differences?
It's whether it's owned by Kyle or whether it's owned by owner. So like in this case, it's dog owner dot all, not a particular dog owner dot all. And again, we'll get lots of practice with all of that stuff. Probably a little bit later this week. Okay, so with dogs, I want to be able to say, hey, I'm a dog. Who are my owners? So we end up doing the same kind of logic, just in the other direction. I say, my dog owner instances are dog owner.all select. Then I want to turn that into my dog owner instance dot dog is me. Before I did it with owner is me. But over here, I want ones where I'm the dog in this pair that's getting passed into every dog owner. So then I go, okay, but I just want the owner part of that. And so I say my owners are dog owner, my dog owner instances dot map and I want to return my dog owner instance dot owner and return my owners. So I should be able to say, hey, Kyle, who are your dogs? And I get back all my dogs. I can say, hey, dog, who are your owners? And it should be able to send back all the owners. So let's see if I'm right. Okay, so I can add Mesa. I can say, hey, Kyle, who are your dogs? Oh, there's Mesa. Mesa, who are your owners? Kyle. We did it! We have this many-to-many relationship, and we've modeled relationships using Ruby. That's kind of it. Now, let's say, like the earlier question, what if I wanted to actually just get back an array of the strings of all the dog names? So what I can do there is I can make a method called dog names, and I can have it get the dogs. So that's using the same method that I defined up here. And I can map through them. And return back their names. You gotta make sure that I've got a reader for that. I can do the same thing for dog breeds. If I do want just that one dimension of the dogs, cool, I can do that. Let's see if it works. Let's add a, we'll give Kyle Mesa, and we'll give Kyle Bixby. We'll give Elise Mesa also. So I say, Elise, who are your dogs? Well, she just has the one. Kyle, though, Kyle's got two. I say, hey, Kyle, who are you? What's your dog's names? I get back that array of strings. Go, Kyle, who are your dog breeds? Ta-da. That's what you should be able to do by the end of next week. So where we start with this is this like mapping and selecting and that kind of stuff. That's that's your first major task, I think, in this program, is getting confident with map, select, and reduce. You can do those three things, like you are off to a great start. Once you're confident with that, then we start talking about classes and adder readers and initializers and like some of that kind of business. But map, select, reduce, find, that's where we're starting. All right, ask me some questions.
You said reduce?
Mm-hmm.
What does that do?
So let's say I wanted to get something like, I want the average age of my dogs. So I pass in age also. And when I make these dogs, I give them ages. Okay, good so far. Now I want something like, what's the total dog ages? All right, so I've got my list of dogs. I can start by just getting an array of their ages. We'll start there. So I should be able to do total dog ages and get an array of those numbers. Like, I'm gonna put these in here now. Okay. So I want a list of all my dog ages. Kyle dot, what was it? Total dog ages. Cool, so I have that array of those two numbers, but I want to sum those numbers, and then I want to like divide them by the number of dogs that I have. All right. So reduce is a tool for taking a collection of things, like an array, and then smashing that into a single thing. So I could say something like array of dog ages, and then I could say total dog age, or else let's say sum. Sum of dog ages is going to be array of dog ages dot reduce. And so reduce is the tricky one. It's what throws everyone off because it works a lot differently than map and find and select do. We're going to give it an initial value, and then we're going to say that's the sum, and that's an age. And so then we want to return sum plus age, and that should give us their sum. In fact, if I just return that, I should be able to see what is it? 44.
Is the 0 the starting number for sum?
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, if there was nothing in the array, then that's what would come back.
Is there a difference between reduce and inject?
Nope, they're the exact same thing.
They're the same thing.
They're synonyms. All right, so I get 44 back. But the thing that I actually wanted to do was divide that by like dogs.count. So if I do that, and I say, hey, all right, 22. Now, something about that, let's see, I guess that would be 44 divided by 2, 22. All right, awesome. One of the first things that throws people off about this, though, and this is on the code challenge somewhere, I think, is let's say it wasn't such a neat number. Let's say it was, this is 20, so it's going to be 45 divided by 2. So that would be 22 and a half. All right, no problem. So I run that. Hey, that's not 22 and a half. If something is an integer, all the calculations you do with it are also integers, and so it rounds off. Actually, I don't even think it rounds off. I think it just truncates it, just chops off the decimal. So the big magic trick on that is you need to make one of these a float. Doesn't need to be both of them, just one of them is fine. But a float divided by an integer will come back as a float. So now, 22 and a half. All right, in like half an hour, that is all the things that we do in Mod 1, more or less. A little bit of database stuff also, but that is not your immediate concern.
So with it being 22 and a half, is it always going to round down if you don't change it to a float, or is it just chop it off? Like if it's 22.9, is it just going to say 22, or
Well, let's
is
see.
it going to go up to 23?
Let's see if I do something like, God, why am I spacing on this? If I do 9 divided by 8, which in a sane world, nope, we'll do 9 divided by 7, nope. 9 divided by 5, there we go. If I do 9 divided by 5, I should get 1.8 back. Let's see what I actually get back. Yep, just chops it right off. Pretends like it wasn't there.
How would you return?
Say that again?
How would you return if you were making a list of like dog names, or like if you wanted Kyle, his dogs, and all of their attributes as like an array of attributes?
So yeah, if I just want the attributes, that's map. Otherwise, I'm getting back the entire instance.
Okay.
And it was if you wanted to return that in the terminal, you could do Kyle.dog names, get the dog names, Kyle.dog after you define them that way.
Exactly.
Okay.
You got it. One of the things that I think is hard about starting out with Ruby is that Ruby is very flexible about how you write it. That's not the case with every language. Python is dictatorial about how you write it. All Python code looks exactly the same. It's like as a design goal of Python, there's exactly one right way to do everything. Ruby's the opposite. There's so many correct ways. Like this way that I did this here, totally legit. I could also write this exact code like this. Check this out. Oops. Oops, come on. I bet that works too. Let's try it. Hey Kyle, who are your dogs? There they are. That line of code is exactly the same as these 7 lines of code. Woof.
So how's the ampersand working there?
It's called a pretzel method. So if all a map is doing is calling a method on the thing that gets back, you can do it inside of that.
So is it preferable to try for the least amount of code, or is it just if it works, stick with it?
Think of it less as the least amount of code and more as the simplest code. Sometimes it's simpler to be verbose and explain yourself.
Okay.
Something like this, yeah, I think that this is probably simpler and easier to follow than that is. So if this was pro production code, I would expect something more like that. But not because it's less code, because it's easier to follow.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You broke my brain with the ampersand. If you could go into more detail on that one.
I won't.
Again.
No, thank you. We'll talk about it. That's probably more of like a week 2 or week 3 thing. If nobody uses a pretzel method by the end of week 2, I'm not going to lose a wink of sleep over that. Just want to show you there are a lot of ways to do stuff in Ruby.
Do you mind explaining how you added those comments so quickly? I've seen people do that.
It's a Vim thing. So I have a plugin that if I highlight something and then do GC, then it comments in whatever language that I'm in. So if this were like JavaScript, for example, then I can say console.log hi and function oi. Okay, so this is JavaScript, and it comments it in the appropriate way for JavaScript. There's also, I don't even think you need a plugin for this in VS Code. I think VS Code.
Yeah,
It's a command question mark.
There you go.
or command backslash, yeah.
If you select a block of code and do Control K C, you'll comment out the section of code.
Could you get into why you're using a map over each, under each, like in order to return your owners?
So that's kind of the topic of the day is each isn't for real like transformations. For example, this same thing written with each would look like this. This and this are identical. But what I'm doing is building an array and it's the same number of things that I'm starting and ending with? That's what a map is. I'm taking 5 dog owner instances and turning it into 5 dogs. That's a map. So anytime you find yourself reaching for that pattern, what you actually want to do is map over it. And the reason that I think map is preferable to each on this is that map is describing my intention. It's saying that I want to transform these dog owner instances into dogs because that's what map means. Each, I think there's even a Learn lab that's called like the unexpressive enumerable. It's because each is just generic. I want to go through this however many for everything that I have on there. And so if you have a more descriptive option, you should always do it. Now, that doesn't mean we never use each. The place where you actually want to use each is like if I wanted, instead of returning the dog's names, if I wanted it to say the dog's names, that's an each. Because I'm not transforming it. I'm just doing something 2 times or 5 times or whatever. But if it's a transformation, it's a map. Other questions?
Could you explain a little bit about your use of self on here?
Yeah. So self is one of the trickier concepts in Mod 1. Effectively, what it means is probably best understood here. When I'm making a new instance of a class, self refers to that new instance that I'm making. So if I want to keep track of every dog owner that I make, initialize gets called every single time I make a new dog owner, and self is a reference to that thing that I just made. So I can keep track of it in that array. Or here, when I'm adding a new dog, well, dog owner takes in a dog and an owner. I was given the dog, and the owner is me. It's the, if I'm calling Kyle.addDog, this is Kyle. But I can also do Elise.addDog. That's Elise. It's just whatever the add dog method is being called on. That's self.
When you do that, do you have to initialize Kyle and Elise first?
Nope.
Or
Well, I mean,
do
you
they
do
get-
because you're going to end up calling that. I have to call add dog on something. I can't do owner.addDog. Has to be an owner.
Oh, okay. So you initialized it up there with the Kyle equals owner.
Yeah, exactly. And if this is making your head spin, like it should, this is really complicated. And you'll get lots of practice and we'll go slow and you'll get like a lot of feedback on all of this stuff. Step one is being able to do that kind of stuff. Any last questions?
I'm trying to access the resources that are in the Firebase.
Yeah.
But they keep
Just
they
refresh
send me
the
back
page.
to that team.
So here's how that works. You go over here, and if your page just refreshed, what you have to do is go up here to curriculum and then switch materials. And yours, thank God, doesn't look like the mess that mine is. It has every mod that anybody who's been in the program has been through. But you want yours to be this mod 1, because it's probably still on pre-work right now.
So I do have to log in
Yes.
to access the resources, right? Okay.
Correct. But not on the Firebase site. Like this
really?
stuff, that doesn't matter for that.
The thing is that I haven't logged in the Firebase app, and I click on the resources and it reloads to that same page.
So you don't log in. Nobody logs into the Firebase app. That's just for instructors.
Okay.
You don't have to be logged into this. You do have to be logged into LearnCo, and you need to be on the right curriculum. So if you click on curriculum, yours should say this. It probably still says pre-work.
Okay.
And so you switch materials and go to your mod 1. And that should fix that.
Okay.
One other thing that I want to shout out to you guys is, so SE Announce is where like we put the schedule, it's where we put these Zoom links. This is like home base. I'll also tell you that we're gradually trying to get everybody over to Flatiron Community. I think Brian's going to send out some instructions for that. And then this Denver SE community will like kind of take the place of that. And the reason why is because it used to be that we had all of the students and all the alums in this SE Announce channel, and they just kicked out the alums a couple weeks ago, which is fucking stupid. So all the alums are here. We're trying to get all the current students in here also, because like alums love coming to lessons. They love helping out. They love answering your questions. And so we're trying to like, I don't know, re-weld the love bubble. The other thing I want to call your attention to is tech questions. So if you have a question about anything, for example, I click on this link and the page just refreshes, or I'm getting this error and I don't know what to do, or like, hey, I can't figure out why this thing is the way that it is. This is the place that you want to put that, not DMing an instructor. There's a couple reasons for that. One is that you want to give other students the opportunity to answer your question. So remember, you can be super selfish and just want to like answer questions all day long. Makes you a better developer. Also, you might not be the only person who's having that problem, so we want to share the answer with as many people as possible. And then lastly, it is a massive pain in the ass for the instructors to like manage 5 different DM threads between us. So this gives us a chance to centralize this stuff. And then one more thing, these green check marks usually mean that like somebody is on it. Cool. Other questions?
Where's the green check mark? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Like an instructor will throw a green check mark on something if it's been handled.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Sorry, I missed.
Other questions?
When you're pasting code in here, is it the same thing as kind of the topics and the pre-work and stuff where you just hit the backtick 3 times?
Yeah, so thank you so much for bringing that up because it drives me fucking crazy when people don't do this. So let's say this is inline code. All right, watch very carefully on this. Single backtick, single backtick. Now, when I hit enter, it turns into that. If you want it to look like this, you have multiple lines. This is blocks of code. Triple ticks, they're called code fences. And then close it with triple ticks. That's how you get it to format that way. And it's important because things like this, notice how like even in the middle of this, that like you want these things to line up. It monospaces the type so that this B and this P like line up correctly. Makes it way easier to read code when you do that. Cool. So you guys are how to computering with Damon right now. One more note. We have 2 enumerables lessons this afternoon. These are the same lesson. So you don't have to go to either one of them. I'd recommend you go to at least one of them. You could go to 2 of them, but it's going to be the same thing in both of them. We want you to start making decisions about how to spend your time like right away. So you are absolutely not expected to be at both of these. They're the same stuff. All right, cool. Good hunting. Have a good day. See you at stand down.